Sheriff Grady Judd stood in front of a wall covered with 246 mugshots at the Polk County Sheriff's Office. And what he said next sent shockwaves through Florida. They had just arrested 230 people for human trafficking and 16 child sexual predators in one of the largest operations the state had ever seen. Judd didn't mince words when he called them sexual deviants who came looking for victims and left in handcuffs instead. But this wasn't just another sting operation that makes headlines for a day and disappears. What investigators uncovered in Florida connects to a massive criminal network that stretches across state lines, uses technology to hide in plain sight, and keeps coming back no matter how many times law enforcement tries to shut it down. Just weeks before the Polk County operation, in June 2025, Lake County deputies ran their own sting in Gurnee that ended with 27 arrests in only 2 nights. Men showed up at a hotel expecting to pay for sex. What they got instead were handcuffs and the shock of realizing the person they had just propositioned was an undercover officer. 2 suspects didn't go quietly. One resisted hard enough to injure an officer before being pinned down and dragged out. Among those arrested were Jameer D. Holmes from Zion, Jesus Navarrete Vega from Gurnee, who damaged the hallway during his arrest, Davis Matute Mona from Zion, who reportedly kneed an officer in the face, and Argyle Piance from Gurnee. Piance had an extra problem because officers found narcotics on him, which stacked his charges even higher. The operation was carefully built. Undercover detectives placed online ads, the same kind traffickers used to sell victims. When suspects responded and showed up at the Gurnee area hotel, officers moved in fast. Phone call, hotel room, knock at the door, then arrest. It looked almost routine, but what raised eyebrows wasn't just the number of arrests. It was the lineup of agencies involved. Sheriff John Eidelberg answered part of it in his official statement. He emphasized that the operation wasn't only about locking people up. They were trying to target the demand side because without buyers, trafficking networks cannot thrive. Eidelberg wanted to make sure that if you show up expecting to buy sex in Lake County, you risk walking out in handcuffs. But that still doesn't explain why NCIS showed up to a hotel sting in the suburbs. The answer is Naval Station Great Lakes, located just a few miles from where this operation took place. It's the Navy's only boot camp and the heart of a massive military community. Each year, thousands of recruits pass through its gates along with instructors, sailors, families, civilian employees, and contractors. That constant movement creates a community that needs strong protection, and NCIS is tasked with safeguarding the entire military community around Great Lakes. When they join a sting like this, it signals that federal agencies recognize the risks surrounding a major base. There's an influx of young recruits far from home, a steady stream of visiting families, and criminal networks that try to exploit both. Lake County might not sound like the first place you would expect human trafficking stings to keep popping up, but history tells a different story. This June 2025 operation was not a one-off. It was part of a long-running fight that stretches back years. Start with 2019. That year, a sting in Waukegan hotels netted dozens of arrests and drew headlines for the scale of buyers caught in a single sweep. 2 years later, in 2021, another suppression initiative in Lake County led to more than 20 men being taken into custody, again in hotels, again through undercover ads. By 2023, the pattern repeated itself. Stings continued, suspects kept showing up, and arrest numbers increased. This is what makes it significant. It's a cycle, and that cycle shows the problem isn't going away. Illinois as a whole has been high on the national list for trafficking cases. According to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, Illinois consistently ranks in the top 10 states across the United States for reported trafficking activity. That's not a list anyone wants to be on, but the numbers don't lie. Calls to hotlines, survivor reports, and law enforcement cases keep pushing Illinois upward. The reason comes down to geography and infrastructure. The I-94 corridor runs straight through Lake County, connecting Chicago to Milwaukee. That stretch of highway has become a major trafficking route. Hotels along that corridor are convenient, discreet, and easily accessible. Traffickers move victims through them quietly, often staying a night or 2 before pushing on to the next city. A 2022 case revealed that traffickers were arrested moving women through hotels along I-94, using the exact same spaces where undercover stings later trapped buyers. And then there's Gurnee itself. On paper, it's a family-friendly destination. Six Flags Great America, Gurnee Mills Outlet Mall, and a stream of tourists who come and go every weekend. Convention centers and constant movement of people create the kind of environment traffickers exploit. High traffic, anonymity, and hotels that rarely ask too many questions. Gurnee becomes a perfect storm. Busy enough that suspects think they will blend in, but small enough that local police can run targeted operations. But here's where things get controversial. Every few years, the same suppression operations roll out. They catch dozens. They make headlines. But the problem doesn't vanish. Each sting proves that the demand is still there, waiting for the next opportunity. Critics argue that arresting buyers won't be enough. Advocates point to deeper issues like traffickers exploiting vulnerabilities, victims coerced into silence, and systemic gaps that allow the corridor to stay active year after year. The methods traffickers use have changed too. Gone are the days when law enforcement only had to watch street corners or shady parlors. Now everything is online. Classified ads, pop-up sites, and even mainstream social media accounts have become storefronts.